Does your organization have a system for handling complaints of its stakeholders? Hi, my name is Jimmy Walabiechi, and you're welcome to Corporate Governance Africa, where we seek to promote good governance through film. The issue of how to deal with complaints in an organization is one of the main governance issues that arises from a recent 3-part BBC documentary series on the Synagogue Church of All Nations of Nigeria. In this video, we consider why it's important for an organization to put in place a complaints handling system, and we shall briefly discuss the important features of such a system. In discussing this important issue, consideration shall not be made about the merits of the grave allegations that are made in the video documentary series. That would best be handled by the relevant law enforcement authorities, like those in the Republic of Nigeria. According to the website of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, the founder of the church, T.B. Joshua, founded the church in 1989 following a visit in Jerusalem in Israel. T.B. Joshua passed away on the 5th of June 2021, and by the time he passed away, the church had 30,000 members approximately. It also had several affiliated churches around the world. On the 8th of January 2024, the British Broadcasting Corporation published a 3-part documentary series detailing various allegations made against the late founder. The allegations included rape, defilement, and many other allegations of pastoral abuse. At the different points in the documentary, certain aggrieved people claimed that they were abused by the late founder. However, they state that their complaints and their concerns were either ignored or they attracted serious retaliation from the late founder of the church. Corporate governance is the system by which companies are directed and controlled. When an organization is governed well, its leaders take deliberate steps to manage the organization's relationships with its stakeholders. A complaints management system is the processes and procedures in which complaints by an organization's stakeholders may be formally communicated to the leadership of the organization for appropriate action to be taken. When the leadership of a church listens to its stakeholders, it will find out if the church is achieving its mission. It can get feedback that could help it identify areas of improvement or even blind spots. It could also get insights as to how to better care for the congregation in accordance with the teachings of Jesus. It could also identify if there are any abuses or crimes that are being perpetrated against the stakeholders by staff members or leaders or founders or anybody else within the organization. If these abuses are identified, appropriate measures may be taken in order to remedy or to cure that situation. Identifying such abuses is important for the well-being of the stakeholders, and it's also an important part of good risk management for the organization or for the church. Let's now discuss some important characteristics of a good complaints management system for a church or any organization. The grievance handling system should be characterized by at least 8 main characteristics. First, it should provide a formal step-by-step process through which aggrieved stakeholders may communicate their grievances to a trusted authority within the organization or even outside the organization. These may be captured in a variety of policies like a grievance handling policy, or maybe in a whistleblower's policy as well, or any other relevant policy. It's not clear if the synagogue church had such a formal process or such policies, but it's important to have policies in place in writing so that these processes can be utilized by the stakeholders for good governance and for their well-being. Second, a good complaints handling system outlines a clear governance structure for the organization. This governance structure is important as it provides different accountability centers within the organization. A governance structure would include church elders, a board of trustees or directors, a church council, or a hierarchy of pastors in the organization. For example, it would outline who may call the pastor to account when there is any wrongdoing by the pastor, the staff member, or any other agent of the organization. It will show to whom one may report their case in case there is a complaint, and it will show the people who would handle or give oversight of managing the complaint to its conclusion. From the Synagogue Church website, the leadership structure is not very clear, but a good complaints process would describe a clear structure and to whom a complainant would make their report or make their complaint. The third important characteristic would be that a grievance handling system should protect reporting persons against repercussions or retaliation against him or her for reporting the grievance. In the documentary, it was alleged that some of those who made the allegations against the founder were threatened with physical violence. Protection of aggrieved people or people who make a particular complaint could be covered through a whistleblower policy. A whistleblower policy allows for people to report a wrongdoing either anonymously or openly, while putting in place measures to protect the person or the whistleblower against retaliation by the person against whom the complaint is made. Fourth is that the process or the system should outline different categories of complaints and provide for different remedies for each category. There may be different categories of complaints within a church setting or within any organization. Within a church setting, these could include complaints related to criminal offenses, pastoral malpractice complaints, and general complaints. Criminal offenses would include offenses like rape or defilement or other offenses that are captured in the laws of the land. A lot of the complaints made in the documentary series relate to complaints made in the category of criminal offenses like sexual abuse and defilement. Pastoral complaints would include genuine misunderstandings, malicious or vexatious complaints, matters of conscience, and genuine theological differences. It has been proposed that such complaints may be resolved through honest conversation, wisdom, and clarity, and may involve internal church processes and disciplinary processes. General complaints include matters like the volume of the music being too loud, or serious matters involving church staff or leaders. The fifth is that it should provide fairness in addressing the complaints. This should include fairness of process as well as fairness of substance. Concerning fairness of process, both sides should be allowed to give their side of the events or their side of the story. Each person should have their day in presenting their complaint or their defense, and no person should be given preference over the other person. As for fairness of substance, this would demand that there is fairness in evaluating the evidence of all the people concerned and deciding fairly on the merits. And so in the synagogue matter, the complainants and the late founder would each be given a fair hearing during the founder's lifetime, of course, and it could also demand an independent investigation so that the matter is handled fairly and with integrity. The sixth is that there should be due attention that is given to every complaint. This should arise even after the passing away of the person who is alleged to have performed that action which has been complained against. The reason is that although there may be no consequences to the deceased, if it is found that there is a high degree of probability that the deceased person perpetrated those abuses, it may provide for measures to prevent such abuses from happening again within that organization. Also, such investigations may exonerate the deceased person against such allegations that were made either after his death or maybe during their lifetime. In the synagogue matter, The complaints were said to have been made before and after the death of the founder. The documentary states that some complaints were made during their stay at the synagogue church to other members or to staff members of the church. Seventh is that the complaints process should provide for sanctions or punishments or corrective measures if the complaints are found to have merit or if they are found to be true. They could be forced to step down, they could be suspended or even dismissed whenever it's necessary. Or if it's a crime, a report of the crime could be made to the relevant law enforcement officers. On the other hand, there should be repercussions for false and malicious allegations. Of course, this should be done within reason so that people are not discouraged from making complaints. At the same time, they should not be made in bad faith. It cannot be ruled out that in some cases, allegations may be made maliciously. So in order to protect the person accused of wrongdoing, there may be some sanctions against such wrongdoing. If it were found that after a thorough investigation, the allegations made in the documentaries against the founder of the synagogue were found to be false or malicious, then a good system would provide some possible corrective measures against the perpetrators of such falsehoods. It's important that measures are taken to protect people against defamatory statements and such grave allegations. That is, if they are false. And finally, the complaints process should be followed by a process through which the victims of abuse are taken through a process of healing and restoration, if indeed they have been abused. This may be through an established church counseling service, or where the church or organization itself refers the victims to specialized organizations that would help the victims to deal with the trauma. If it were found that the allegations that were made against the founder of the synagogue church were true, then good governance would demand that measures are taken to help the victims to deal with the trauma. In conclusion, stakeholder engagement is vital for the success of any organization, including a church. And a complaints management system is extremely important in order to consider the interests of the different stakeholders of the organization. It is the ethical thing to engage with stakeholders, and it is part of good risk management. It also helps an organization to recalibrate their activities so that they are more aligned to their mission. Finally, it's important for an organization like a church not to exalt its reputation over its responsibility to do the right thing. Organizations, including faith-based organizations like churches, would best be served by putting in place a good complaints handling system so that they can address the issues or the challenges or the abuses or get feedback from their stakeholders.